Water! 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 Oh, water! It's good. Guys, I'm on expedition. I can't get to the studio, so I'll make the video from here. Check out this latest video. I was looking for the pirate treasure last week. We're still looking for it. We're lost. We don't know where we are. Help! This is the story of the search for the gold treasure of Lima at Queenscliff, Australia. We'll look a little at what happened with the treasure, and then we're going to actually visit Queenscliff and have a look for ourselves, so stay tuned. The newspaper articles say that about 120 years ago, Kerosene Jack was seen walking around, peering at the ground in various beaches around Queenscliff. He was an amiable kind of guy, but became strangely reticent when questioned about any treasure. Nevertheless, it is he who may have formed most of the legend of the treasure. A pirate's map had been tattooed on his arm. One article states that he lived in a shack made up of kerosene cans. Another says his name was Jack Karissimo. Some say his name was actually Stringaree Jack. He seems to have died decades before the big treasure hunting syndicates were able to tackle the site as an old man. Every newspaper article seems to tell a different tale. It seems people began looking for the treasure in response to Kerosene Jack's drunken tales in the 1920s. One article from the 20s claimed the council's main interest in the matter was simply filling in the holes which had been dug by treasure hunters. Syndicates seem to have been digging since about 1900. A well-funded syndicate in 1935 located one likely location using dowsing rods. They began digging in earnest. In 1937 they abandoned their almost 50-foot shaft as it was filling with water. By 1938 they had resumed their shaft with a pump which could displace 50,000 gallons per hour. At one time they halted their excavation until they could bring in powerful submarine lights. They also brought in huge steel cylinders to shore up the shaft they had dug, spending thousands of pounds on their enterprise. Alternately, the articles seem to be suggesting these steel cylinders were a kind of bathysphere for men to work in. By now this syndicate had sunk various timbered shafts around a central hole with a mining engineer in charge with boring equipment. Labourers and divers were even hired, but in the end, around the beginning of the Second World War, it is said that their only reward was sand. In one newspaper article from 1938, the journalist says he was shown some recovered treasure in Queenscliff by one hunter. It consisted of pistols and swords supposedly belonging to Ben Benito. The hunter claimed that he was refused permission to dig as he did not specify the location, and they feared he would dig up the main street of Queenscliff. At 58 feet, the team found an underwater room, but nothing came of it. In the 1950s, a new and larger syndicate took over. They used a dowser who employed two sharp metal rods to sense electromagnetic energies of the gold. When he walked over the site, the recoil was so hard that the rods snapped back and nearly cut his thumbs off. This was convincing enough for the syndicate to begin digging in earnest. The syndicate was fueled by the discovery of a 17th century Spanish coin near the cliffs. This, however, may have just been a plant. It was said to have been backed by wealthy western grazers. A pump which could displace 350,000 gallons per hour was brought in, and a huge mechanical scoop. Allegedly on one weekend, such was the newspaper frenzy that 7,000 holiday goers from Melbourne arrived to shake their hands and wish them luck. One article by a journalist claims that he was told by a publican that the syndicate members were in his bar celebrating one night and passing a round object between themselves. Since it was run by an open-cut mining engineer, by 1955, the hole was described in newspapers as a crater, 60 feet deep, with only an old 1880s Enfield rifle officially recovered. One story says that students of the nearby school were scared that gelignite blasting would shatter their windows and debris was falling on students. Another story says the windows did shatter and the students were cut by flying glass. The syndicate apologised and promised no more blasting, but it was too late. The government swiftly stepped in and, despite howls of protest, their licence was revoked and the team banished from the site forever, along with all other excavations. Over time, people would forget that the possible treasure even existed. I decided to visit with some friends and have a look. We went to the blasting site and later some cliff caves on the other side of the peninsula. Check this out. Now, just over there is a school, and in the 50s when explorers were here, there were explosions going off and debris was raining down on that school over there, and it was just a nightmare for them, so they told the explorers to get lost basically, and we don't know exactly where it's located, but it's somewhere around here. Well, we're now on the ocean side of Queenscliff, and behind me is that huge cliff over there. It seems to have a cave, so we're going to check it out now. We're going to see if that has anything to do with the treasure. 200 years ago, Ben Bonito sailed into this harbour. He sailed between those two cliffs, and he buried it somewhere, and no one's ever found it to our knowledge. We're getting closer now. I can almost smell that gold. We're at this amazing cliff here, this amazing honeycomb formation. It's unbelievable. When Ben Bonito came here, he knew he was onto a winner. He knew there was somewhere to bury his goblet. Somewhere in caves like this. And he said, with that British ship chasing him, he said, we're going to hide it here. Beautiful honeycomb cliffs. The tide is coming in. If we wanted to excavate this cave, we would have to hurry. And if you come in here and look at this, it's unbelievable. The cave you just go in and in and in. You can go all the way in here. A cave like this could have been the hiding place of the treasure. Someone like Kerosene Jack could have buried the treasure in here. It could be buried under all this sediment. We will never know. So we're gonna go into Kerosene Jack's cave, and I'm actually gonna go in here. Okay, look, there's not much point going any further, but as you say, it just keeps going around the corner. Is this the pirate cave? I mean, it could well be. It's just, and there are lots of caves just like this one. Unbelievable, just unbelievable.
Ready?
Yeah. Well, it's a pity we didn't find the treasure, because if we did, this is where I'd leave it. This is where it belongs, the museum. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Meanwhile, I'm going to build a campfire. Please click like, sub, whatever you want. And, excuse me, help, help.